Good morning, music lovers, and welcome to episode 7 of Talkin' Tunes with Dr. Tony. As you can see by what I'm wearing on my head, it's another cold morning here in Georgia. It was 27 degrees this morning. I went out with a lady from Peru, and we do street ministry with some day laborers that are Hispanic speakers. So we went out there and brought them some McDonald's burritos and shared some words from the Bible and encouraged them. So hopefully it was a beneficial experience for anyone or for everyone. So anyway, well, again, welcome to episode 7. And today we have 4 albums that we're going to be looking at. So let's just get started. The first one is from Kenny Loggins, and the name of the album is High Adventure from 1982. So some of the noteworthy people on this album are Michael McDonald, who is a songwriter as well as playing piano. Neil Giraldo is on guitar, and David Foster also does some production. So some of the cuts on the album, the first one starts off with a song called Don't Fight It, which is a collaboration with Steve Perry from Journey, and this song was nominated for a Grammy for Best Rock Performance by a Duo or a Group with Vocal. And what's interesting about the song to me is that Steve Perry and Kenny Loggins, their voices are very, very similar. So it's really kind of unknown why they decided to pair up, but I must confess I'm not a big fan of Steve Perry in Journey. I much preferred the Journey before he joined, but this album is very commercial. Many of the songs are quite repetitive, and I do like some of Kenny Loggins' earlier songs, especially House at Pooh Corner, and also Danny's songs. And you know that he did record with Jim Messina for a while, and there is a Jim Messina connection that we're going to have today later on, so just stay tuned. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you is that Jim Messina, he actually grew up in the town next to mine in Maywood, California, but there's a lot of Kenny Loggins songs that I just don't care for. I don't like Footloose at all. I don't like Your Mama Don't Dance and Your Daddy Don't Rock and Roll. I really don't know how this album made it into my collection. I may have purchased it for $1, or someone may have given it to me. I really don't know what the intended target audience is for this album, but I won't be playing it again, and I will probably gift it to a Kenny Loggins fan in the future. But some of the other cuts, there's a song called Heartlight, which is repetitive. Another one is called I Gotta Try, which has more variation, and the vocals are better, and the melody is pretty good. The song called Heart to Heart has the most plays on Spotify of any of these songs, but it's highly produced, easy listening. Maybe you would call it yacht rock today. But anyway, I was looking for something a little bit more complex, but it's really just too much middle of the road for me. So let's move on to the next song, or next album, and it's Tom Scott's album called Desire. So Tom Scott, he started out his career at age 17 with some solo albums, and he also began his session career during this time. He did several poorly received solo albums from 1967 to 72, but he formed the LA Express in 1973, and this was a great group that did a few albums. The people that came from this album or this band or joined in were Robin Ford and Larry Carlton, both on guitar, Max Bennett, Joe Sample, and John Guerin on drums from this band. And Tom Scott also played on Joni Mitchell's album For the Roses in 1972. And interestingly, he was called Tommy Scott. Later, he played with the Blues Brothers band. So Tom Scott, he was the son of a TV and film composer. His dad did 850 television shows, including Lassie and Dragnet, and also 100 films. So this album, Desire, like High Adventure from Kenny Loggins, came out in 1982. But it's very different than Kenny Loggins' albums. The personnel, Vinnie Colaiuta is on drums, who played with Frank Zappa and other people. Victor Feldman is on keyboards. Chuck Finley plays trumpet, and Ernie Watts also plays saxophone. This recording was done in just 2 days, and it really personifies smooth jazz to a large extent. It's a great recording. I don't think there's a bad cut on this album, but there's really nothing terribly exciting. It's very accessible. There's no standout tunes that really are memorable after repeated listenings. But if you want to chill with a glass of wine with someone you love, it definitely would be a good listening experience. It's also a good intro to jazz fusion for a newcomer. And it will definitely satisfy any Tom Scott or David Sanborn fans, but probably won't make any new converts to Tom Scott. A couple songs on side 2, Johnny Be Bad instead of Johnny Be Good, has backing vocals and a great guitar solo from Buzz Fighton, who played with the Butterfield Blues Band and also was a session guy. He uses a wah-wah pedal on this song. And there's also a song ending the album called Chunk o' Funk. And there's a lot of very cool sax and guitar solos on that song. He also does a cover of Maybe I'm Amazed, which on that album, the alto sax replaces Paul McCartney's vocals, and also the trombone mimics the piano fills. So it's got a pretty cool ending for the song. But I think that overall, that Chunk of Funk is the most challenging tune on the album, especially the saxophone part. The next album I want to share with you is from Sting, called Songs from the Labyrinth. And it is Sting's 8th studio album. He collaborates with Bosnian lutenist Edin Karamazov, and it's from 2006. Amazingly, this album reached number 25 on the Billboard 200, and it primarily focuses on the music of John Dowland, who lived from 1563 to 1627. So you could only imagine what sort of a reaction a Police fan would have to this recording, or someone that knows Sting from The Dream of the Blue Turtles or Soul Cages. So Sting plays lute and sings. And you got to give him credit for branching out and trying something new and exposing others to music that maybe is not that well known. But this album doesn't really work for me. You certainly don't want to listen to it if you're operating any heavy machinery, unless you want to be so relaxed and doze off and hurt yourself. So, but Amazon gave this recording 4.4 out of 5 stars, which surprises me. It's some Elizabethan madrigal music. Sting's voice can't really carry the music. It just doesn't work. I think that this could benefit from other instruments, different arrangements, maybe along the lines of Steel I Span, but there's too much of the same on this album. I believe that the instrumentals work a lot better than the vocals. The album does serve to raise some curiosity about John Dowland, and music generally from this era. But if you like lute, I encourage you to check out Julian Bream or to listen to Jan Ackerman's work on his solo album called Tabernacle. All right, the last album for today is the best one. I saved the best for last, and it's Buffalo Springfield, the Best of Retrospective. Now, what's surprising about this is that Buffalo Springfield only had 3 studio albums. So why would you have a best of just for 3 studio albums? But for me, this was the first Buffalo Springfield album that I heard, and I heard it at the Southgate Drive-In in Southern California in 1969, where I was on a date with my girlfriend, and the people that we double dated with, the guy, he had an 8-track version of this. So I loved it when it was first released in 1969 when I first heard it, and I love it now. But I encourage you to get all 3 studio albums. Now, this band, Buffalo Springfield, they were short-lived, but you probably know that Stephen Stills, Neil Young, Richie Furay, and Jim Messina, they all were members of this band. And at the end, Richie Furay and Jim Messina, they left and they formed Poco. And then Stephen Stills and Neil Young, well, you know where they went. Stephen Stills formed Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Neil Young did a couple solo albums and then joined Crosby, Stills and Nash. But Stephen Stills and Richie Furay, they go back to New York City where they were folkies performing in a group called the A-Go-Go Singers, 1964. And Stephen Stills then moved to LA and told Richie that he had a band. Now, during this time, Richie was working in Ohio, I believe, at an aerospace company. So he came out to LA to join Stephen Stills in this band, only to discover there wasn't a band. But what they did is they did bump into Neil Young and Bruce Palmer in Hollywood. They had earlier made contact with these guys and tried to get together, so they met at the very last minute after Neil Young and Bruce Palmer were ready to go back to Canada. So an interesting story about Stephen Stills is that Mickey Dolenz tells us that Stephen Stills auditioned for the Monkees, and apparently he was rejected because he did not fit the image. But they asked him, well, do you know anybody that's similar to you that may be more along the lines of what we're looking for? So Stephen Stills recommended Peter Tork, who then joined the Monkees. So the songs on Retrospective are from 1966 to 1968. And this album charted number 42 on the Billboard 200. The best known songs are For What It's Worth, composed by Stephen Stills. It reached number 7 as a single. Mr. Soul by Neil Young. Bluebird, composed by Stephen Stills. There are multiple versions of this song. The version on this album has a banjo instrumental break, but a longer version has Stephen Stills singing Feral Howls, and also there's a guitar duel between Stills and Neil Young. Another great song on this album is On the Way Home, which was written by Neil Young, but sung by Richie Furay, which was often the case during the early days of Buffalo Springfield. Rock and Roll Woman, Stephen Stills, another great song, and Kind Woman, which was written and sung by Richie Furay. Now, their first single was Nowadays Clancy Can't Even Sing, and it was not a commercial success at all. I think it was just ahead of its time, but it was written by Neil Young and sung by Richie Furay. And another great song from this album is Go and Say Goodbye, written by Stephen Stills. So, as I mentioned, they had 3 studio albums. The first one was just entitled Buffalo Springfield. It reached number 80 on the Billboard charts. Then we had Buffalo Springfield again, number 44 on Billboard. And then we had Buffalo Springfield Last Time Around, which was number 42 on the Billboard. Now, the Buffalo Springfield may be America's best band, not only in terms of their output in a short period of time, but in terms of their potential and the legacy that they spawned. In my opinion, if you were to buy their first 3 studio albums, there's not a bad cut on any of those albums. Some of my favorites from the first Buffalo Springfield album is Flying on the Ground is Wrong, written by Neil Young, sung by Richie Furay. Do I Have to Come Right Out and Say It Again, written by Neil Young, Richie Furay from the first Buffalo Springfield album. And Hot Dusty Roads, first Buffalo Springfield album, written by Stephen Stills, and he sings with Richie Furay. On Buffalo Springfield again, there's a song called Sad Memory that Richie Furay wrote and sang. And then on Buffalo Springfield Last Time Around, there's a song called Questions by Stephen Stills that became 49 bye-byes on Crosby, Stills and Nash. Then we also have Uno Mundo on Last Time Around, which is from Stephen Stills. So we've gone through the 4 albums today. 2 of them I would consider to be dogs. The High Adventure by Kenny Loggins and Sting's Songs from the Labyrinth. But Desire, great album from Tom Scott, and Retrospective, absolutely an essential album. So that's what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you next time. Have a blessed day.